Do you remember when all games asked you to do was just take your pixel pal from point A to point B? Probably not, as the collective age of this viewer base is about the same as a shelf life of a pint of milk, but hey, trust old man Jules on this one. Nowadays, it's all about the plot, with games weaving narratives as compelling and complex as any major blockbuster. But it's not about simply mimicking the silver screen though, it's about player investment. Developers know that if their story is well written, produced and delivered, that they're going to get gamers to stay with them over the 40+ hours of their titles. Which leads us here, to this list. Which are the greatest narratives in gaming? It's a tough question for sure, but hey, I've survived a fivesome, so I think I'm up for the challenge. With this in mind, I'm Jules for WhatCulture.com, and here's a list on 10 of the best video game storylines ever. Number 10, The Last of Us. Following the bereaved father/surrogate daughter pairing of Joel and Ellie, players must traverse a post-apocalyptic America to deliver a possible cure for a fungal virus that has ruined the nation. As the story unfolds, the intense survival bond between them grows, to a point where Joel, and therefore the player, is prepared to do anything to protect Ellie. You start to perceive everyone else as ultimately expendable, and that's a twisted outlook that builds up to one of the best endings in recent memory. As well as being well written and visually stunning, the pacing in The Last of Us is incredible. Sometimes slowing down for extended periods to let players explore, and rewarding that with side stories and notes which explain more about the now wasted world. For being the benchmark for both cinematic and environmental storytelling, you simply must try The Last of Us. Number 9, Final Fantasy VI. While Final Fantasy VII was one of the most impressive step-ups in a game series on a technical level, it owes a lot to the epic, sweeping plot of 6. The story was gripping and packed with some of the series' most memorable characters, such as Umaro, Terra, and not to mention the terrifyingly sociopathic villain, Kefka. The main party characters felt like a true ensemble rather than followers of one particular leader, and there's something poignant about this community-spirited approach. Unlike successive games in the series, the 6 storyline didn't feel cluttered or convoluted, something commonly known as Metal Gear Solid syndrome. It's a pretty classic storyline, but set in such a world and written in such a way that it has the edge over its fellow games in the series. Number 8, The Walking Dead Season 1. The pinnacle of Telltale Games' narrative-driven interactive dramas, The Walking Dead is a raw, pure story of survival quite unlike any other game. You don't have an arsenal of weapons nor replenishing health bars to fall back on. Instead, it's the power of speech and reason that will keep order amongst the group of survivors. Yet, as the game goes on, you realise that death is simply everywhere, and ultimately your priority becomes protecting the young girl Clementine and simply trying to survive yourself. As a package, the first season is a masterful, tragic piece of storytelling that proves that high-end graphics and action-packed gameplay aren't essential to a gripping experience. Number 7, Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption is almost a counter-tale to the GTA franchise. It's a story about trying to get away from the violence, but somehow being pulled back into it. John Marston never makes hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, what would he have spent it on the barren waste anyway? Nor is he particularly a sharp-witted fella who thrives on trash talking. He's just a man who wanted to retire from his outlaw past, but as the story unfolds, you realise that he's being torn further and further away from his goal, giving the plot a feel of an unfolding tragedy rather than a typical rise-to-the-top tale. Marston doesn't seek success, only the titular redemption, and the game wonderfully throws the idea that he could do this through violence back in our faces. Maybe the only way he could get redemption was through death, which makes it feel very fatalistic, and kind of beautiful because of it. Number 6, Portal 2. So many people were surprised when the original Portal dropped onto the market and wowed players with not only supremely clever gameplay, but a charming and downright hilarious story. So imagine the collective jaw drop when Portal 2 hit and raised the stakes in every single way. With gameplay mechanics tighter than Tory mental health budgets and a narrative that takes everything you expected and turns it into a potato, making a game that was pure chaotic bliss to play through. Expanding on the lore of experimenting mentalist GLaDOS and Aperture Science, we are introduced to new characters, each filled to the brim with quips and comedy, and a new danger in the form of the somewhat idiotic Wheatley. Not many games could mix brain-bending puzzles with a surprisingly deep narrative, but Portal 2 pulls off the mix with such a confidence that it's impossible not to love. Number 5, the Mass Effect Trilogy. Yeah, I'm gonna cheat a little here and put 3 games as one entry on this list, but this is one hell of a ride. The decisions you make from the first game come back around in the third installment, really making you feel like you're the admiral of your own spaceship story. The genius of the story isn't just in the rich, lore-filled world or the epic business of saving the galaxy. galaxy, but in the intimacy of life aboard the Normandy and its eclectic mix of characters. It ultimately feels like a tale of unlikely friendships set against the backdrop of unimaginably huge events. And it's all dictated by your in-game decisions. Aside from the very end, of course. Regardless of the ending shenanigans, it's an excellent piece of video game storytelling that's greater than the sum of its parts. Number 4. Deus Ex. It's an incredible experience when you're first plunged into Deus Ex's near-future world of corporate conspiracies, nano-augmentation, and a city which, never experiences daylight. The plot is a veritable mishmash of conspiracy theories, shamelessly throwing in groups like the Illuminati and Knights Templar, while somehow taking itself entirely seriously and pulling it off. In the role of J.C. Denton, it's your job to uncover the source of a deadly plague-like disease called the Grey Death, inevitably dragging you into a world of corporate conspiracies, big business, and greed. Like any great video game storyline, Deus Ex is bolstered by the mechanics, which encourage you to engage with different characters, make difficult moral decisions that affect the world around you, and do your own digging like a Robo-Columbo to uncover the truth. Number 3. Dark Souls. Dark Souls is a game which dares to do things differently, offering a story that players can engage in as much or as little as they please. Dark Souls is set in a forlorn world that relies upon the eternal balance between dark and fire. When the flame of the world begins to fade, powerful beings in possession of Lord Souls attempt to keep it alive, but in doing so plunge the world further into chaos, which is where you, the player, come in. Where the story really thrives is in the player's encounters with other adventurers, all of whom are steadily deteriorating to become hollow. Should you choose to aid these characters, their unfolding stories are poetic in their tragedy and beauty, and combining them all together builds a world that is just dripping with lore, and a lot of blood. Number 2. Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 oozes creepiness like I ooze smugness. Nothing in Silent Hill is clear, from the misty streets to the intentions of the characters you meet, and everything is up for interpretation. The true nature of what's going on remains elusive throughout, and the multiple possible endings depend on subtle, nuanced behaviours, like how often you read letters, or how much time you spent with certain characters. It's an enigmatic story akin to the puzzle-like narratives of David Lynch, a dark psychological exploration that offers no easy explanation way out, making it truly unique even to this day. And number 1, BioShock. BioShock, I knew you'd be back on my list sometime soon. In many ways, BioShock was a true coming of age for video game storytelling. Your time in the decrepit, ruined utopia of Rapture is not only a memorable trip, but a nigh-perfect realization of Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged, critiquing the book's championing of objectivism and individualism. Then there's that big twist, which towards the end of the game made us feel like for the last 15 hours that we had pretty much no control over our actions. Of course, this is kind of the case for most games, but BioShock made us powerfully, profoundly aware of the fact. And it's a story told as much through audio logs as it is through the stunningly detailed world of Rapture itself. Sifting through its decaying wreckage will fill you with wonder, despair, and in many cases, fear. For a game set so far under the ocean, it's no wonder it handles immersion so well. And that's our list. Do you have any more stories which are worth spilling? Then let us know about them in the comments section below. And if you want to come spin me a yarn, then you can do so here or on my personal Twitter, RetroJ0. If you enjoyed the video, then like, share and subscribe for more. As always, I've been Jules for WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.